And oh, okay. I should
Sorry
brush
about
up my
that.
language. It's being recorded. Um, I've been retired about 5 years now, and it was then that my wife and I moved to the Kingston area. I'm not from Kingston, but my wife is. And I have to say, of all the arguments that I've lost over the years, and there's been many, this one worked out well. I'm enjoying getting to know the Kingston area. When I was working, like most of you, I did the paycheck deduction thing for the United Way. And I felt good about it, but I didn't really know or appreciate all that they do. I was too busy working. But now that I have more time on my hands, I'm learning about the amazing things that they are doing right here in our communities. And today, we will share some of that with you. So it is my privilege to welcome you to our first Retirees United virtual panel discussion. We did have an in-person event back in November 2019. It seems like 10 years ago, but it was at the Kingston Pen. But before we could schedule a second one, our world was turned upside down by the coronavirus. So we hope this virtual format will allow us to connect with retirees like you, to keep you informed on some of the many issues that our communities face, and about the people that are making a difference. Today, you will hear from various speakers on the topic of food security, and specifically how your support is helping those in need. So I hope you have your favorite morning beverage, maybe a croissant or something, and I will do the same. And I want to start by recognizing and thanking Toronto Dominion for being our sponsor for today's event. I'm happy to introduce to you Sandra Lachapelle, who is here to bring you greetings from TD. And now I will turn it over to Sandra to say a few words.
So thank you very much. I'm really honored to be here this morning from my house. I normally work from the branch, so it's a bit different for me. So TD and United Way, I mean, it's a love story that has been never ending and will never end, I'm sure. We're all about TD is really the most diverse bank, and it's clear that the values we have are perfectly aligned with United Way, and especially in KFL&A, excuse me for this one. So we really do have the same goal of equality for everyone. And this is one of the many reasons why I'm so proud to work with TD and to work with you guys this morning. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And I'll hand it over to Bhavana, if she forgives me for the way I say United Way, KFL&A.
You did pretty good. It's a tough one. I know I struggled when I moved to Kingston from Lennox and Addington, but thank you. So thank you, Tim, and thanks to everyone who has worked on organizing this committee, this meeting today. We're thrilled that we're able to talk about a topic that is really crucial to our community. So when the pandemic hit, what really shocked us, and as personally, it was really overwhelming to imagine that there were people going hungry right here in our community. So in the past, the United Way has funded meal programs forever. And we used to fund something like 100 meals a day on average across the community. When the pandemic hit, our agencies immediately, and you'll hear from three of them today, immediately kicked into action to respond to the growing demand. And we have been shocked and overwhelmed by the amount of need, but we've also been pleasantly overwhelmed and really impressed by the way our agencies have responded. So right now, from 100 meals a day, we are now up to close to 1,700 meals on average a day. And this includes Meals on Wheels in rural areas. This includes the food boxes. This includes the hampers that go out from food sharing program to students and families who otherwise would have received meals in their schools. To students, you'll hear about that. What's been really impressive is how well our agencies have responded, because it takes a lot of creativity to find different ways to serve food. So these are amazing frontline efforts that have just found different ways to serve in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of not having volunteers in the same way, not being able to accommodate the same kind of service and meals that would normally be something that they did all the time and was relatively easier to do with the amount of volunteers. And it's just been really wonderful to see how our community has kicked in and how they have responded. financially, as well as always being willing to help out. So we'll hear from three of our agencies today, as I mentioned. We'll also open it up for questions at the end of the panel. You can feel free to add your questions to the chat box on this, and Kim will certainly make sure that we cover those as we go. We've got a combination of videos and some really amazing people who work in these agencies. So with us today, we've got Rhonda Candy from Martha's Table, Sean Sargent from Lionhearts, and Helen Maberly from Kingston Community Health Centers. So we're going to start. I think one of the things that's really important to note is that all our agencies at this time, it's not just food they're serving, they're also looking at the quality of the meals, the quality of the food that's being delivered. So it's really impressive to see how well and how thoughtful our agencies have been. So I'm going to start with Sean Sargent from Lionhearts. So Sean, over to you.
Thank you, Pavel, and it's great to be here with all of you. Thank you for the invitation. Last March, the 17th, we were all sitting there when we watched the Prime Minister go on TV and say, stay home. For a lot of us, that was actually a little bit of shock, but also, okay, because we had a home. We had what we needed, and we went and we stocked up when we had to. For quite a few others, though, unfortunately, that meant that they were in a predicament that I hadn't even contemplated. Part of that process for us is that in the past, over the last little while, Lionhearts has been predominantly someone who is looking to do big distribution, basically going to different places like Costco and other locations and picking up the surplus that they had, and actually then taking it, sorting it, and distributing it to all those frontline agencies that were already doing the really good, hard work. A couple of them are here. Rhonda, for example, down Martha's Table, has been doing this for years and years, and she's going to tell some really remarkable stories here in a few minutes. For us, we were actually able to take to 32 different agencies on a weekly basis. On that 17th, we found out that we went from 32 agencies to 4 that were going to be open, which meant that we probably had a little bit of food that had to get distributed to other locations, other places, and we really didn't have anywhere to take it. The secondary part of that was we started getting all these phone calls from local businesses like restaurants, hotels, catering companies, universities, the colleges, all these institutions that realized they were going to be closed for a few weeks, potentially a month or two, and they had a ton of food that they didn't want to see go to waste. Could we come and get it? So we had a ton of really awesome stuff. It was actually pretty amazing. When the keg closed, they had lobster and steak. First time we'd ever seen that as a donation to our program. That was kind of fun. But the other part of that was we didn't have any place necessarily to take that. We also got a call that night from some friends over at Salvation Army, and then as well from the Kingston Street Mission, saying that tomorrow was going to be very, very dire for a lot of our program guests. Because there wasn't something simple where you could go and even get a glass of water, because all of those, even the fast food restaurants were closed. Everything was closed in those first few weeks. And this was still March. The outdoor taps weren't even turned on. So finding even something as simple as clean water was extremely difficult. And that's where we thought, we have got to go and see what we can do to help with all this extra food and all these other things, and the need that was going to be significantly more with people having to stay home, not at work, and doing those kinds of things. So that first night, the next night, the 18th, we actually went down to Skeleton Park and served 37 meals. 9 days later, that was up to 200 meals. And we thought, we have a bit of a problem here. And we had to figure out how we were going to make this sustainable and how this is going to work. Part of that process was finding enough budget to actually put things like meal containers together, to figure out how we would actually, distribute all those meals. It became very evident very quickly that we needed help. So we found some local chefs here in town that were out of work looking for something to do. They came and volunteered their time. We had a number of people who just came along and said, hey, you know what? I have a little extra spare time now because I'm not actually at work or doing things. Can I come and help? And it was a really remarkable thing how the community just came together and started to actually form a remarkable response to this emergency need. Over those first few weeks, we actually got to the point where we're like, okay, if we continue this, we're going to be broke. That's just one of those things that was going to happen for Lionhearts. And that's when the remarkable leadership of the United Way came. They actually said, okay, how can we help you to make this sustainable? How can we help you to actually figure this out? And they came to the rescue in those first few weeks before we could actually get some campaigns launched, before we could do those things to actually get us started, to make sure that those kinds of things continued. It was pretty remarkable to see how, as I said, the community as a whole came together to do some remarkable things. Right now, serving somewhere between 100 and 1,000 meals a day. And that's depending on the part of the month. At the beginning of the month, when there's some little extra money in pockets, then people are really respectful and they don't come. Later in the month, when there's not much left and they really have a need, they come. And that's actually something we've seen over the last little while. The needs have been increasing. We thought, in the first little bit, things would actually taper off after a while and we wouldn't be needed as much. And then we saw the numbers start to climb. And that's part of that process for us was we started to see, people that came that would never have normally ever wanted to be in a meal line. I remember one gentleman named Mark. We were actually serving at Stages at that point, and he was outside just sort of looking in, and I was at the door helping some others out, and we had a conversation. And turns out he was in his late 50s, a tradesperson, and had been out of work for quite some time. And this was his very first night being homeless. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know where he was supposed to go. Someone had mentioned that he could at least get a meal down at Stages. And so he came down, but he was sort of unsure as to what to do, how to go about it, or if he even wanted to. So we had a little chat. We brought him in, got him what he needed for the night. And the other part of that was trying to find him somewhere to stay that evening. And it was still cold. It was still in March of this last year. And that was the beautiful thing about that, is there was an overflow shelter that had been set up, again, with the leadership of the United Way leading the charge there, just make sure that there was extra beds this year because of the need. So he had a place to sleep that night and something to eat. And, at least he knew that people out in his community cared enough to actually work on it. Others too. I remember Kristen coming up to our Amherst location not that long ago and explaining how she had actually just been going through cancer treatments and had a hard time with the idea of what was going to happen afterwards. She lost her job because she actually wasn't able to continue in that fashion and was looking for something, but was on a long-term disability process that had sort of expired. She'd been moved over to ODSP, and at this point in time, at the end of the month, she had $50 left for groceries. So she wasn't sure how she was going to survive or what was going to happen until she found some of the meal programs that were available to her. It's hard. It's hard to watch. It's hard to hear, but at the same time, it's a remarkable thing that the community has come together to make this all happen. And I think we have a little video that we're going to show now, just explains a little bit about what happens here at Lionhearts on a daily basis. And then I have a couple little things just to touch base on after that with regards to what's going on in the future.
Okay, perfect. The video is ready, and I'll just share my screen now.
I woke up one day and I thought to myself, I spent a large part of my life serving others in distant lands, helping them out, helping people. In Somalia, because of our presence, at the end of the day, we ended up saving hundreds of thousands of lives. And so it struck me that having done work in so many other countries, trying to save others' lives, why not try and do something for my adopted city of Kingston? There are 3 programs that Lionhearts runs. The one that I'm involved in is the COVID-19 Street Project. 700 meals a day are prepared. It's all about serving the people of this community, and without question. These bags have been pre-packaged by the morning shift. And what they've done is they put a fork, a bottle of water, bread, and a packet that's got Quaker oats, Lipton cut up a soup, and sometimes a cookie or two or candy. And then we add the meal that this great chef next door, Will, and his team, Mel and others, have put together, and the meals are fantastic. Any food which is expired, which cannot be consumed by human beings, are given to the pig farm owners, who then pick it up. It's right on the curbside. They stop, they load it. The cardboard that gets recycled at Lappins Lane, nothing's wasted. And we just keep going day after day after day. Lionhearts now does 4 sites: Amherst View, Napanee, Rideau Heights, and McBurney Park, serving 700 meals a night. We've got 252 meals already loaded in a refrigerated van. The van's working and keeping them nice and safe. We always check to make sure we've got enough sanitizer for the tables, the hand soap to wash, and of course the gloves. So we're good to go. I retired as a brigadier general in the Army, but I subordinate myself to those in charge here and just do what they want me to do. So this is McBurney Park. We are there from 6 to 7 every night, and rain or shine or whatever the weather. You know what they say, when they ask you, what's the wet weather program? You get wet. What also impressed me is the first time I went to McBurney Park to serve. It's the setup done professionally, the sanitization of the tables, and the social distancing between the members of the team, as well as with our guests who line up, and we put cones out to make sure that they maintain their 2 meters distance between each other, and they're appreciative, and it's really fulfilling and very satisfying to actually be able to participate in that kind of an activity. Do you want a drink? Yeah, please. Hot chocolate or a cold drink? Cold drink? The highlight of this, the whole operation for me, is just seeing the people here and interacting with them, being able to provide them with something that they want, with good food prepared by our chef, Will, who does a great job along with his team. Some of them actually come in and they take 12, 15, sometimes 20 meals, and they redistribute, and that's meaningful as well. It's being able to hand out and help people here in Kingston who are in need. That interaction is very special. It's the highlight of the day. What strikes me about this organization is first of all, there's almost no overhead. Most not-for-profit organizations have an overhead of at least 20%. The overhead of this organization, Lionhearts, is 4.4%. All the money, virtually all the money that is contributed to Lionhearts goes into serving the people of this community. And that's critical, that's really fundamental. Started operating in 2014, and since then they have actually served $6.3 million worth of meals, which is impressive. And it's $6.3 million worth of meals that have fed the people of this community, people in need. We rely on the generosity of the community that we serve. We're part of a team. We're part of the Kingston team, and the Kingston team needs our help. And we want you to help us help those who are in need.
Thank you, Chelsea. So a big part of our program currently is meals. The other part is still distribution. We have been able to still, in 2020, distribute $3.4 million worth of product as well. That includes all sorts of fresh foods and things like that to a lot of the agencies that were there fighting the good fight. A lot of those types of things came in over and above this year, things that we wouldn't normally have collected. And it was the very good graces of a local church that actually gave us the use of their giant gymnasium. We saw 6,500 square feet in there filled pretty quickly. We built a giant 20 by 12 by 14-foot fridge between the basketball nets and started to go to town. It was pretty amazing because United Way actually found some remarkable donations from organizations like Kimberly-Clark and Nestle Canada. And it was interesting to see the sort of semi-trucks pull up here along the side of this church and then start to actually unload. We had to actually find some local farmers to come and use their tractors to get the load off there a couple of times. But we were able to bring that into this giant space and actually start distributing things like PPE, masks, and hand sanitizer to a lot of the agencies that were still operating and trying to do things that made their lives a little bit easier. Kimberly-Clark had 20,000 rolls of toilet paper. Nestle Canada brought 186,400 chocolate bars. They were all coffee crisps, let me tell you. That was a lot of fun. We couldn't have done that without that space. And that's actually the really interesting part about what's going forward, is that through this experience shared with all the different agencies, all the different organizations, we've actually realized that there's an intense need for a food warehouse, a place where we can actually gather and store and actually then distribute from, where we can wash and clean and do those things. And again, an initiative from the United Way has actually been working its way through with City Council and some of the other funders here in town to actually create that space and create a lasting legacy of it for the next 5 years. Pretty excited about that too, and that's coming down the pike, and I'm sure Pavna has some more details on that. But anyway, just want to share a little bit about what's going on and just say thank you. Thank you to you for helping us, helping the entire community to make sure that they actually had something to eat today and tomorrow. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sean. I'm sure everyone who's listening felt that pang when you heard Mark's story, when you heard Kristen's story, when you heard and imagined people going hungry right here in our communities. It's unfathomable, but it's happening. We do have people hungry. We do have people not getting healthy, nutritious food. And all we can do right now is respond and collectively do something about it. And speaking of helping people, Helen Maberly is part of a program at Kingston Community Health Centers that delivers healthy food to people across the community. So I'll turn it over to you, Helen, to tell us a little bit more.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. As we all can imagine, when everything closed down in March of 2020, we were all not sure what we were going to do. Kingston Community Health Centers had a program called the Good Food Box. And what it was people could purchase through bulk buying fresh fruits and vegetables. They would order them at 32 host sites across the city, and then they would pick them up at those host sites in the middle of the month. Well, as Sean said, 32 host sites suddenly shut down, and we had only a handful open, and people weren't able to place orders. So for our Good Food Box program, we quickly pivoted and created an online platform so people could order their boxes. But we continue to get tons of phone calls from people that could previously afford to buy our fresh fruits and vegetable boxes that were no longer able to afford them. So with support from our friends at United Way, we were able to begin to give out some of those boxes free, which was great. Then we had to figure out how we were going to get them to people. So we made some phone calls to our friends over at Loving Spoonful, and they brought their volunteer drivers. And suddenly we were able to start to deliver fresh fruits and vegetables out to folks. At the same time, United Way was getting all kinds of phone calls that seniors didn't have enough food. And we met with United Way and with many of you on this panel, with some United Way retirees, and began talking about creating a seniors food box. And we did that. We created a box that had fresh fruits and vegetables, about 8 to 10 items, but we also put dry goods in there as well, 8 to 10 items. We couldn't have done that without the support of folks like Diodato, who gave us huge discounts, Grants No Frills, who helped us with all of our dry goods. And also we partnered with Hogan's Honey to put honey in the boxes as well for our seniors. The boxes would retail for about $35, but thanks to bulk buying, we were able to get them at a cost of $25. So we began delivering those out to folks. Very quickly, we thought we'd do a couple hundred boxes a month. And within a very short period of time, we had a wait list. We had a huge wait list. And thank God, Pavna called me and said, how are we going to do this? and offered some money through the COVID fund to increase it. And we began doing 400 boxes a month. And we've continued to do that throughout this time. And with the support of the United Way retirees, we couldn't have done it without you guys. Our seniors need a reminder phone call every single month. Many of them are suffering with different illnesses, some of which is early onset of some dementia and different things. Reminder, they can't remember which week their box is to come. Those reminder calls have been huge. Not to mention the fact that Tim has joined us and helped deliver boxes as well. It's been a huge help for all of us. We couldn't have done it. On top of that, Pavna called and we got calls from both St. Lawrence College and Queen's University. They had a lot of students, both international students, single parents that were really struggling to get by. So we also partnered with them and we provide boxes that go out to them once a month out to Queen's AMS and to St. Lawrence College. St. Lawrence gets most of the dry goods, but Queen's gets both. So we had huge needs. But every single time that we had a need, United Way stepped up and funded us and kept us going to support those needs in the community. On a monthly basis now, between the boxes that go to Queens, the boxes that go to St. Lawrence, the boxes that go to our seniors and to our families, we're doing about 850 boxes per month going out. And that has continued since March of 2020. But I think one of the really interesting things about this story is midway through, you'll see a video in a bit, we were packing all of our boxes at KCHC. And then public health came a knocking and said, we want you to be a vaccine clinic at KCHC. And we were like, I was like, oh my God, where am I going to pack these boxes? What am I going to do? So of course, through this time, Sean and I had the opportunity to get to know each other a little bit better because we had offered space to Lion's Heart to actually serve their meal programs out in front of our building when a lot of other places were closed. And Sean said, Helen, you can come over to Kingston Gospel. You can pack them here. To which I said, oh, thank God. And we began doing it and packing the boxes there. And when Sean speaks of the need for the warehouse space, that's one of the reasons that we need it. For years when we were packing the Good Food Box, we were shuffled around from pillar to post. We packed in school basements all over the place. And it's hard to find those spaces, not to mention a space that, is going to be custom built that we can unload properly and get other items out. We also, those Kimberly Clark donations that Sean spoke of, we put those items into the seniors boxes, into our families boxes, and they went out. And that's because we were able to redistribute a lot of those bulk items. So we did an estimate since March of 2020 till March of this year. We distributed 260,000 pounds of food and over 9,600 food boxes. So it's been remarkable. It's been a journey. We've had the opportunity to meet lots of great people. And if I could say that there's one thing in COVID that's been positive, it's brought the food providers together to really begin to say, can we do it? Yep, we'll figure it out. We'll pivot. And perhaps the most impressive thing has been a couple of stories that I'd like to share. One was a woman by the name of Mel, and I have permission to share her story. She was a volunteer here at KCHC who had taken early retirement because of health issues and volunteered here one day a week on our front desk. We let her know that the seniors box was going to be available to see if she might need it. And she took it. She took it a little bit. She was hesitant to take it, but she did. And I guess it would have been a month or so after she began getting the box. She called me to thank me. She let me know that her income was ODSP and some CPP. That she walks with a cane and had mobility issues. She's diabetic, and she let me know that by the time the end of the month came around, she was lucky if she had a couple $100 left after she paid rent and everything for transportation, food, everything. And that her diabetes was doing better and she was doing incredibly the best she'd done in quite a while. The interesting thing about it is I had the privilege of delivering to her. And this is a woman who walks with a cane. And I had trouble getting up the stairs. There was like 3 flights of stairs to get to her apartment. So mobility and getting out for a lot of our seniors is a real challenge. Another story is a gentleman by the name of Don, who I delivered, and a lot of the apartment buildings, if there's an elevator, people will come down and actually get their orders for us. So I was at the door and I was waiting quite a while. I thought he was taking a long time to come down to actually get his order. And when he came off the elevator, he was in a wheelchair and was a double amputee. I quickly realized that's why it took him a while to get down to us. I said to him, do you need a hand up with the stuff? He said, oh, no, dear, just put it on the back of the chair. And I said, I can help you up. I can help you up. So I did, and we went up in the elevator. And through our conversation, I asked him, how he'd heard about the program and different things. And he told me that his daughter lived in St. Catharines, and she was incredibly worried about him because he had no family here, about how he was going to get food and groceries in. And she had called the United Way in St. Catharines and found out about the United Way in Kingston, and she made a phone call. And so through the love from St. Catharines all the way down to Kingston, he got on the food list. And of course, when I got to his door, he had to show me a picture of his daughter, who happened to be a healthcare worker in St. Catharines. So there's lots of time that you spend with our seniors as you're delivering those boxes. There's a whole lot about relationships, because often we're the only contact that people see in their week, and they're very, very appreciative of that little bit of human contact. So again, thank you to all of you for your support and to United Way. And I think Chelsea has a little video of when we were packing at KCHC.
Awesome. Sharing it now.
Local love in response. In the first 4 months of the pandemic, 42,000 people were helped in KFL&A. $1.6 million of special COVID-19 funding has been invested in 87 local programs. This is in addition to regular funding provided to 30 partner agencies to adapt and deliver programs.
Hi, I'm Kathy Sturmey, and it's Thursday morning at Kingston Community Health Centers, and we're packing the senior food box today. Early on in the pandemic, it became very clear that the most vulnerable people were seniors, and their biggest concerns were food security and in isolation. We worked with the United Way and came up with the senior food box, a combination of fresh fruits and vegetables and dried goods, which we deliver every other week to seniors in Kingston area.
It's really important that we try and keep our seniors engaged and well looked after, and I think this is just one small way of being able to do that, giving them good food and having some conversation with them and having some communication with outside of their little four walls. So yeah, I think it's really impactful.
The project is funded by our local United Way, KFL&A, as well as the Government of Canada and New Horizons for Seniors project. So that funds the program. But honestly, we could not do it without our community partners. The produce and the staple items that are going out are worth about $35 each order. But thanks to the support of community partners, the cost to us is about $25. That's because of great supporters like Diodato Foods, as well as No Frills Grants. No Frills has helped us a lot, as has Hogan's Apiaries in terms of getting food available at reasonable prices for our folks. And then we couldn't do it without Loving Spoonful. Loving Spoonful has a great team of drivers that come in every week and pick up the food and make sure that it gets delivered to our seniors, as well as the amazing staff here at KCHC. The community development team has put together the boxes and make sure that they get packed and out to everybody, along with some of our other community staff here at KCHC. So we've been really fortunate to be able to step up and help folks.
I've been delivering seniors food boxes since it started, and the seniors are very appreciative of the food and the contact, the social contact. They look forward to the visit, and it's been a really worthwhile endeavor.
With your support, agencies and programs can continue to meet immediate needs and help the most vulnerable members of our community. Donate today. www.unitedwaykfla.ca/donate. Thank you for your local love. Local.
Sorry about that. That was a camping video, and it's ironic because that was done at the start of the 4 months into the pandemic. Yeah. Since then, actually, our numbers are very different. We have served 79,000 people. We've invested $5.5 million into 220 programs. So just a quick update there. We need to fix that video a bit. We'll now turn to Rhonda, and Rhonda has been, as Sean said, Martha's Table does such incredible work serving meals. When they could do it in person, they always made their guests feel welcome. They always made them feel a sense of hope, dignity, and a sense of belonging. It was a place for people to go. But what's really impressive is how quickly this agency has changed, adapted, introduced some really creative programs. So Rhonda, over to you.
Thanks, Bhavna. And some of that quick thinking, we were able to act on that only because of support from agencies like United Way and sharing amongst our frontline agencies. So I would like to say thanks for inviting us here to join in this discussion, because food security is really a topic of concern in our community. And today I want to share some of my experiences related to hunger, food insecurity statistics, because I think it really underscores in a black and white way, because it's such a personal and emotional topic for me anyways. I think the numbers really help reinforce what's happening. And I'll also touch on the connection between food insecurity and mental health and physical health. So just quickly, a little bit about Martha's Table. We've served in the community hot, nutritious meals since 1997. Pre-pandemic, and I'm going to say post-pandemic, we've served breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as well as offering a social environment where people could relax, recharge, access computers and phones, relevant workshops and fun workshops, ID clinics, flu shot clinics. Our goal really is to help others when they find themselves in need. So we want to make the programming available to all and encourage everyone to participate, not just coming in to use the program, but if people want to be part of what's happening. We are really inclusive and we strive to be welcoming. So the food, what we do without sacrificing nutrition, I can see the picture there. Look at that. Oh my gosh. So a beautiful stir fry the crew whipped up here. So without sacrificing that nutrition, we've just recently partnered with dietitians and nutritionists to make sure that we're not missing any healthy choice opportunities. But we're really creative when it comes to keeping our costs as low as possible. Like we buy in bulk, we share between agencies, we ask for things for free. But we work hard to get all those healthy food choices to those that need it. And so we work towards waste. And what little there might be, we send off to chicken farmers. So again, it's a nice cycle. And sometimes those farmers bring us eggs. So full cycle. So besides just about everything, what has changed at Martha since the pandemic? We've been doing takeout meals only. So unfortunately, there's no more breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can see the takeout packages there as one example of a day's meal. And we are doing also something I'm really excited about is door-to-door delivery for those that are most vulnerable in the community. So it's something that we wanted to do for years, but because the pandemic, again, if there's something good to say about it, this is it. It was a priority that we brought forward and launched. And a really great side effect of this program is that by knocking on doors, we're able to do a quick wellness check. So to aid in the delivery program, we just acquired through donations. Again, United Way was had a part in that. We have a beautiful electric vehicle, and we're happy to have this method of reducing our carbon footprint while still offering a really beneficial service. In fact, I think the meal delivery program has made the most impact and has been the most well received of any program since 1997 when we began serving meals. So it's had that much of an impact. The demand is great. So further accommodation to the pandemic restrictions, we still wanted to offer some comfort to our guests. So we set up summer and winterized patios. And we look forward to the time though that we can return to indoor programming because it's part of what we do. That person-to-person contact is so important. But we're doing our best to stay nimble and ready to pivot our services to meet changing needs in the community because no one knows for sure what's coming next. But we do know that we're serving 320 meals a day right now, 7 days a week. That 7 days a week is was something that we launched for 5 days a week during the pandemic as well because of the need. So this increased demand has caused us to rely on our team of staff and amazing volunteers so much more heavily. The workforce is reduced and the workload is increased. Many people that are volunteering are seniors, but we work with students and people still in the workforce. They're the heart of Martha's, and we really strive to make sure they have a memorable experience. I can't tell you, I've been here since 2008, how many times that I've heard a volunteer on their first shift saying, I had no idea there was so much need. And to me, I think I said the same thing in 2008-ish. And I really think if we can give people an opportunity to see what's happening in the community, to meet people that are vulnerable, our understanding is increased, which results in a lowering of stigma and a determination to make a lifetime impact can be cemented right then and there. It becomes very personal. The social aspect of our service is vital. To health and well-being, it's critical. We coined a tagline, serving the community with food and friendship. I mean, it's just as simple as that. A place to go where you aren't judged, you're made welcome, food and coffee, a comfortable setting, in some cases is life-saving. Martha's is a place to meet friends and greet friends. We all know, I'm sure we can all raise our hands and say isolation causes incredible strain on mental health. But food related, one of my favorite quotes, and you may have heard me say this before, but it's Virginia Woolf, and it's short. One cannot think well, love well, sleep well if one has not dined well. And this quote captures what I've learned about food insecurity. If you haven't eaten, you can't focus on anything else. That's what you need to deal with. So those stats that I told you I was going to share, in Ontario, 1 in 7 households are food insecure. 1 in 6 children under the age of 18 live with food insecurity. And that unfortunately is especially in homes with single parents. Food insecure households often choose to skip medical expenses or other critical bills to pay for food and housing. Shouldn't have to make a choice. A prevalence of chronic conditions in food insecure households, and this is just to name a few, this is a long list. Asthma, diabetes, blood pressure, heart conditions, mood and anxiety disorders. Adults living in those insecure households account for 1 in 3 hospitalizations due to mental health concerns. Exposure leaves an indelible mark on a children's health and well-being, often manifesting in greater risks for conditions like depression, suicide, future trauma, and habits such as hoarding tendencies, just to name a couple. Our childhood impacts us all in ways we may not even realize. We all have experiences that make us who we are today. And I'm a firm believer in the need to provide mental health supports for our children and youth. It should be taught in the classroom as well as one-on-one as needed. At Martha's table and most agencies, I'm sure, numbers and statistics become names and people. Now, I've gotten to know many of our guests, and they've shared bits and pieces of their stories over the years with me, and I'll share one today, just an overview, but it underscores determination and hope. I met this gentleman. It turns out he was a single father of 2 very young boys back in 2009 when we first met. They would often visit Martha's, but a few times a week for the evening meal, and we always made sure the boys were given extras and lots of attention. We wanted to make sure their experience was nothing but positive. In fact, they referred to coming to Martha's as going to the restaurant. So that's what we want people to experience. Their father was a handyman, but he struggled to make ends meet. He had some mental health challenges, but he never shared the details. Their visit to Martha's, he said, were enough to offset their income, but they struggled. And the father's goal, as he shared with me, was to keep his family healthy, together, and happy. And I hope that at Martha's we played some small role in his success, because he really did succeed. But that was because they all worked really hard And that's the word to get where they are today. And I can tell you, I just spoke to this gentleman last week. I didn't see the boys, but one of them just finished his second year of college and the other is just finishing high school. So it's such a privilege to be able to see that span of a lifetime and see people's ups and downs, and just to share in that experience and do what we can to make an impact. And that's done through cooperation of everyone here today and in this beautiful city. Not all stories have a happy ending, but we have to build ourselves to continue the next day battle with that, the goal of that. Many people aren't sure what to do or where to go. And while we do everything possible to make their time at Martha's comfortable, some people struggle just to reach out for help. Sean just described one man's story so well. His first night homeless, like, what would you do? Like, where would you go? I mean, even with my knowledge and my years here and seeing it happen, unfortunately, over and over, I would be freaking out. It would be such a scary and traumatizing time. But fortunately, we live in a community that's really becoming more and more aware of the needs of their fellow Kingstonians, and they're taking the actions to fix what's broken. So I'll recap today what I've just said. The need for prepared meals in the city is real and it's urgent. And we see people from all walks of life, senior citizens to students, people on government supports like ODSP and OW, those that are recently unemployed or underemployed, and their budgets are stretched to the breaking point. We'll continue to evolve over the coming years to meet the increased needs in our city, and we'll strive to serve as long as needed. But my sincere hope, I'll repeat myself, that mental health supports are put in place during a youth's formative years, as well as providing supports needed right now for those currently dealing with challenges. There's a noticeable downward spiral in the mental health of our community. As the pandemic continues to, it's prolonged, we're seeing this spiral, and I'm very concerned. I realize the solution to food insecurity is not as simple as mental health supports. It's a really complex problem, but we need to start the process. Actions can be taken, plant a garden, share that knowledge, say hello to someone, help reduce stigma and misconceptions, take an active role in change. One thing is certain though, the need to eliminate this terrible hunger that too many people are living with is urgent. But after meeting and working with many of our youth in the city and in the province, I have hope. I have strong hope that we're going to get there. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to provide two of life's necessities, food and friendship, to the best of our ability. And a final thank you to all of you for your support, your time, your care that you provide in one way or another, multiple ways. Thank you. Thank you to all the agencies that support our efforts and the efforts of others on the front line. We couldn't do it, we couldn't get it done without the help of our village. So thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Very powerful statistics and stories. So really appreciate you sharing them. And thanks for all the work you and all our amazing agencies do. You serve with compassion and care, and that's the most important thing right now. So we will open it up for questions in a minute, but I just wanted to also mention that our agencies can always use volunteers. So if any of you want to volunteer, feel free to reach out to, you can either do it through the United Way, Kim can type the link in the chat box, or you can contact Helen and Rhonda directly, because I know they're always looking for volunteer drivers and cooks and chefs. And if Sean feels that he wants volunteers, he can wave and we'll make sure that you get connected too. We've got lots of volunteer opportunities if you want. They might be a little slower right now, but as the pandemic progresses and as we open up a little more, we will find more volunteer opportunities. We also have a day of caring on June the 11th. So you can go to our website and find that. We will be accepting drop-off locations, including non-perishable food, which will then be distributed through our agencies. And there are some other options for kids if you'd like. So feel free to explore if there's some ways you want to give back more than you already do. We'd love to be able to help you. So I will, I think Arlene, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay.
I'll turn it over to you. Yeah.
Yes, my name is Arlene Aish, and I'm a member of the Retirees United. And on behalf of Retirees United, Sean, Helen, and Rhonda, thank you so very much for speaking to us today. It was very good of you to share with our retirees how the Kingston communities, the Kingston agencies have responded to the challenge of the pandemic. We've been able to learn quite a bit about how you work together, how quick you were off the mark to get going in this from March 2020, and how very innovative and you've been in adapting your means of distributing food and getting it to the people who need it. It's quite alarming to learn about how very prevalent food insecurity is in our community. And as Rhonda says, I'm sure many of us listening to you and many of the people that I know and associate with have no idea. And so every little bit of information that we can spread to our community about how bad the situation is, I think is very, very useful. And you've also demonstrated, all three of you, how very much people need more than just food. They need human contact, and they need to know that someone cares about them. And your agencies provide that as well. In terms of what retirees can do, obviously we want you to donate. And in particular, it's been mentioned several times, the food warehouse is very much needed. And so supporting the United Way will contribute to that as well. So again, thank you very, very much for the three of you and your talks today.
Thanks, Arlene, that you captured that well. Any questions, any comments?
I do have a question and a comment, if I can do that without chat.
Sure.
I think it's very obvious that there's a great need to go upstream with this. We need to be doing something about reducing in food insecurity rather than just giving out the food and meeting the immediate need, reacting, in other words. And I think we tend to sort of think that maybe that's government's problem. I'm wondering if any of the speakers have any comments about what individuals can do about reducing the need for food insecurity. Should we be lobbying? What else can we do?
Helen, Martha's table, you see that all the time. Helen, did you want to go with this?
Okay. Oh, she got.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Rhonda.
Well, then you next. But yes, I mean, I totally agree, Arlene. And as I said, I'm a strong supporter for, as you say, upstream, because I am proud to say Martha's is a Band-Aid. That's been a term that's used in a negative context, but it's not, it needs to be done. And that's what we're doing. But in the meantime, if we can preempt Martha's, if the next generation, and I've seen those young people that are coming up and they've got fire and determination, if they can harness that, and I'm sure they will, we need to be proactive on all levels, and we can all do something today. We don't have to wait for somebody else to jump in, but it's a good question, Arlene. What is it specifically that an individual can do? I do think that we need to let our political entities, if you will, know what we think is needed. We need to support agencies that are doing that work already. And it's not just mental health, as I say, it's rather complicated. But I do see a lot of people that have mental challenges, some developmental challenges. There's a lot of abuse, which leads to addictions, which leads people to my door in a variety of ways. So I really think that we need to work on all of those areas that give people a stable and supportive environment where they can grow into confident adults and people that don't need to reach out for help. Of course, then there's always the economy and the workforce, right? People need to have meaningful employment and become self-sufficient that way too. So I mean, the sky's the limit. If you could find a way to allow people to work at their pace in something that would provide them employment, mental health is going to improve just because of that. People want to be self-sufficient. They want to contribute to society. So if we can find a way to do that, you're going to help a segment. So yeah, it's hard to pick one answer.
Mm-hmm. Complex.
For sure. Prior to the pandemic, KCHC's role was much more in affordable access for food and not giving away food. Our Good Food Box program was founded on the premise of residents in the community who themselves were struggling but didn't want to take a handout but wanted what they called a hand up, which is why we bought a lot of the food in bulk and the boxes are purchased. So we anticipate doing that model again, but we did know through the pandemic that a significant number of people, had lost jobs and were still really struggling to make ends meet. Same with our seniors, and looking at how we can find a way to keep the box affordable for some who may be able to be able to afford it in the future, and transportation is more what they need. So those are a few things that we're going to be looking at. In terms of what we can do as individuals, I think income security is probably one of the number one things that leads to poverty and food insecurity. So I can tell you that our organization is a big supporter of things like a living wage for people so that they can afford to put a meal on the table for their families, and also a big supporter of things like basic income to ensure that people can make ends meet. So those are a few things. We also continue to do, as part of my other work here at KCHC, supporting young families, and also doing a lot of work around with those young families and children, and getting kids involved in cooking and learning how to do some of those things, and skill building as well. It's certainly not all about that, but those are some other ways that we can look at supporting folks as well.
So I'm hearing that it would be helpful. Arlene is willing to lobby, so maybe we would encourage the living wage and the guaranteed income possibly. Yeah. Any other questions? Any other comments? Okay. So I guess, Tim, or Jim, did you have any final words, and then we can wrap up?
Jim, did you want to say anything?
Yes, it occurred to me that many of us as retirees were going to have an opportunity to be able to kind of contribute via the generosity of the government. Last year they had, and I'm not sure what they call it, but it was a supplement to the OAS that was given to all retired seniors over 65. So Judah and I contributed last year. Well, apparently the government is going to do it again. And so I think in August, if this is passed, the legislation is passed, we're going to be getting $500 per person from the government. And for those who are feeling comfortable and are not looking for excuses to buy expensive bottles of wine or whatever it is that they enjoy, I would recommend you thinking about donating that to these organizations and whatever organizations you think are going to help people in COVID. And of course, my favorite one is United Way. So please think about it.
That's a really good point. I didn't know that. Oh, that's nice. I like that.
Thanks, Jim.
Maybe you're not old enough.
So Tim, that's all I wanted to say. I think you have a wrap up speech, I'm sure, tucked somewhere in your pocket.
Well, yeah, with Pavna's permission, I'll just say a few concluding words. Getting to know the extent of the problem in our community is heartbreaking in itself, and getting to know some of the individual stories can break your heart even more. But at the same time, I'm lucky enough to interact with some of these individuals because I drive and deliver the senior food box, and you know, as much as these deliveries are like a ray of sunshine in their lives, they give it back. I'm blown away by their positive attitude on life, even though life has dealt them a bad hand. And it's very rewarding to be a part of this team. I think all of you are on this team, and you know, to be able to do something positive for our community. And I'm telling you, I get it back much more than what I give. And I just hope and invite everybody to be a part of this team and volunteer, donate, whatever you do. It's an amazing thing we're doing here, because we get that feedback all the time from our clients. So you know, thank you all for what you do.
Thanks, Tim, and thanks everyone for sitting in on this panel. And I hope you all have a lovely day. And thanks, Sean, Helen, and Rhonda, as always. I appreciate you sharing your insight. I always learn something new. Thanks, Sandra, for your sponsorship. And
welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Tim, for your leadership.
Have a nice day.
And thank you to United Way for being such an important element in achieving these goals.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.